30 years working at the same agency, enough time to witness the launch of the orbital station, see it grow, and become the greatest symbol of scientific collaboration in modern history. To me, it was more than just a metal structure floating 400 kilometers above Earth. It was home. It was pride. But now we speak of it in the past tense. The International Space Station, or what's left of it, is about to be decommissioned, and everything would have gone quietly, if not for the silence, the absolute silence that replaced the team's enthusiasm. The corridors used to echo with the lively voices of scientists debating experiments and exchanging theories. Now we wandered like ghosts, and the most constant sound was the heavy boots of the agents, as we started calling them, walking through the upper floors where no one else was allowed anymore. My turn came on a Thursday morning, a polite invitation, too polite, from a man with a smooth face and a black tie. I was taken to a white, cold, windowless room. Inside were 3 people, none smiling. The questions started off as ordinary, but with a strange tone, as if poorly translated from a human language. "What's your opinion on the color blue? Have you ever felt the urge to float? If you could erase one memory, what would it be?" I answered as best I could, trying to keep my sense of humor. But the air in the room was dense. One of them took notes constantly, even when I said, "I don't know." Another just stared at me, his eyes locked on mine, as if measuring my pulse with his gaze. At the end, they asked to take my temperature. They had already done that at the entrance, but I complied. It was only when I left that I noticed one of the agents was now wearing a dark green tie. I'm almost certain it was black before. I went back to my sector and was bombarded with questions. Everyone who had been interviewed came out. Different. Some quieter, others started making simple mistakes. 1 or 2 quit just days later. Rumors began to spread. Someone claimed the station was off orbit. Another said they saw a kind of dark veil covering half the structure through a homemade telescope. I tried contacting former astronaut colleagues, wanted to know if they had any idea. Nothing. All numbers went to voicemail. Emails bounced. And suddenly I noticed something else. Their online profiles were being updated with dates of death, each with a different cause. Trivial accidents, hiking mishaps, plane crashes, accidental poisoning, but none of them seemed real, too neatly arranged. I spoke with a colleague in logistics. He revealed in a whisper that agents had been adding cargo to the station's launches, items not on any manifest. No one said what they were, only provided the weight and demanded recalculations. "That's against all safety protocols," he whispered, "but no one up there answers anymore. Even the satellites can't access the station's control systems." The following week, that colleague vanished. Officially, he took leave for personal reasons. But a new hire filled his position the very next day, smiling, saying he was thrilled after months of interviews. I knew I couldn't trust anyone in the building, so I started digging alone late at night. On an old, decommissioned terminal, I found something strange. A camera recording from the ISS dated only 3 days earlier. The station trembled. Its interior, once bright and clean, was overtaken by pulsing shadows, as if some kind of biomass was spreading across the walls. A rhythmic sound, almost like a heartbeat, echoed in the background. not like beating, more like singing. I managed to copy the video onto a flash drive before the terminal shut itself down. The next day, the terminal was gone, just a hole in the wall where it used to be. I barely slept. I felt like I was being followed. A car parked outside my apartment every night. No one ever got out. A coworker told me that at night he dreamt he was on the station, but without a helmet, and he could breathe, and someone or something was calling his name over and over. That was the last conversation we had. The next day, he didn't show up for work. His company email was deactivated, his locker emptied. Then the notice came. Access to upper floors prohibited without permission from the Orbital Integrity Division. No one had ever heard of this division. It wasn't in our charts. Using my old access, granted from decades of service, I intercepted one final transmission from the station. It lasted less than a minute. A metallic whisper in Morse code, coming from a long-defunct channel. It is not a station. It is waking up. Whatever is up there now is not the ISS anymore. Maybe it never was. Maybe at some point the station stopped being a scientific structure and became a cocoon or a prison or a seed. Maybe the agents aren't agents. Maybe we're not decommissioning anything. Maybe we're protecting the planet from what has been trapped up there for decades. But something has changed. The silence, the disappearances, the swapped identities, they're signs that it's ready for return, for connection. I don't know what's coming, but I know that when it does, there won't be time to react. If you hear something from the sky, don't answer.